Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado. Hope you're doing well. I really wanted you to catch this story. I really want you to hear what the Pueblo Police Chief says. I'm going to be playing his audio next. But first off, I want to tell you the background here. Folks, this is the reality of our state right now. This is the truth about Colorado. The lies of the governor, the Denver mayor, so many of these legislators that claim that crime is down. It's not a big deal. They continue to pass criminal-friendly legislation, bills that make it easier for violent criminals to be out on the streets. And at the same time, these legislators are trying to take away our right to defend ourselves. They're trying to take away our ability to protect our families and our communities. And letting these violent criminals out, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It is crazy. You have to watch this audio, listen to the audio, watch this video with the Pueblo Police Chief. But here's the background here. So this was just recent. This is March 18th, March 19th. Suspect dead, 3 officers injured in Pueblo shooting. This guy's a bad guy. This is the criminal who ended up getting killed, out on bond for multiple felonies, out on bond because they'll let that happen here in Colorado. He was being investigated for attempted murder. He's an admitted MS-13 gang member. Of course, he had a gun. Of course, he was able to get 80 rounds off. This guy's not able to legally buy a gun. Are you kidding me? You think any of these anti-gun laws are going to do anything to stop an MS-13 gang member? No, they're not. So here's what happened, folks. This is a horrible situation, but Tuesday, March 18th, a suspect is dead and 3 officers are stable following an officer-involved shooting near Bessemer on Tuesday evening. According to the Pueblo Police Department, officers originally responded about 7:15 to a shots fired call near the intersection of West Mesa and Cedar Street after reports that an officer had been shot. Officers with Pueblo Police Department and deputies with the Pueblo County Sheriff's Office responded. Once on the scene, additional gunfire was exchanged between the suspect and law enforcement. The suspect ran from the scene while continuing to fire shots at the officers. Officers returned fire. The suspect was injured in the exchange. Officers provided emergency medical attention, and the suspect was declared dead. 3 officers were injured and taken to the hospital where all are stable. No members of the public were injured. I mean, folks, this is what's happening in Pueblo. It's what's happening in Denver, what's happening in Aurora. Could be in your community. Soft on crime policies are creating a very dangerous situation. And of course, our state legislators do not want to allow us to protect ourselves. You know, at the risk of repeating myself, we got to jump over. You got to listen to what the Pueblo sheriff here says. So let's tune into that and see what he said here.
For Billy Soto, who was wanted for attempted murder in relation to a shooting at the Pueblo Village Apartments on February 3rd, 2025. Billy Soto was a self-admitted MS-13 gang member who had a criminal history that spans pages. He had 14 felony arrests, most of which pled to misdemeanors. At the time of the shooting last night, he was out on bond on not 1, but 3 felony cases. And as I stated, he was wanted on attempted murder charges related to a shooting at an apartment complex in Pueblo's south side. Our officers were ambushed and shot by a malicious person who should have been in jail but wasn't because of our soft on crime legislation and bonds. He fired an estimated 80 rounds at responding officers who thankfully are in stable condition but have a long road to recovery. Our officers ended his rampage of terror the only way they could, by shooting him, and he is dead. I'd like to just make a few statements about the environment that breeds this type of criminal behavior. When we refuse as a state to hold low-level criminals accountable, they become emboldened. Violent crime goes up, and incidents like this assault are the result. The broken windows theory of law enforcement worked in New York, it worked in Boston, it worked in LA, and many other communities. Instead of holding low-level offenders responsible, the state of Colorado has adopted the open windows theory of law enforcement, where we hold no one accountable. Our victims suffer, our communities suffer, and our police officers suffer. This year, they continue to try to take away any tool we have available to hold criminals accountable. And when we find ways around their weak policies, they try to take those options away from us as well. I, for one, am sick of it. I'm sick of my officers taking these risks and being held to this kind of a crime with no recourse. And our community should be sick of it. The blood of my officers lays at the steps of our Capitol, and the reckless and soft on crime legislation passed out of there, and I'm tired of the needless violence my officers in our community face because of these policies. It is not the people in our Capitol who pay the price for these laws that do nothing but coddle criminals and let them loose back into our community. The individuals voting for and passing this legislation do not suffer the consequences of their policies. Instead, it is the people who live in towns like Pueblo, in neighborhoods like the East Side and Bessemer, here in Pueblo and in other cities around our state who suffer. It's the economically depressed and minority communities who suffer. It is our officers and law enforcement officials like ours who suffer the endless assaults, shootings, violence, etc. I do not believe the majority of our citizens support this legislation, or do they? Over the past 4 years, the situation for our communities has become increasingly worse. Each year, criminals receive breaks, while officers lose qualified immunity, are assumed to have committed misconduct solely because a body-worn camera wasn't turned on, as is specifically outlined in Senate Bill 2217. And our communities suffer under the lawlessness that is pervasive throughout this state. If they truly cared about our officers and our citizens, they would demand that criminals be held accountable. Instead, they are released from jails with little or no bond when we can arrest them, serve less than half their sentences in prison or jail when they are sentenced, and return to our communities to assault, shoot, and in some cases kill our officers and citizens with impunity. I will no longer sit idly by and not shout from the mountaintop about this injustice to my officers. They deserve better, as does our community. As the Chief of Police, I have a solemn duty to the men and women I work with to bring light to this situation, and as a citizen of this state, I have a right to demand more from our government. I would ask our community to continue to pray for our wounded officers and their families. I'd also ask that you pray for our officers who weren't physically wounded, but who carry the internal scars that come from facing incidents like this. Thank you. God bless my officers.
I mean, wow. Wow, powerful stuff from the Pueblo Police Chief. I don't know how anybody could watch that, listen to that, and not feel something, not be moved, not be angry at the situation we're finding ourselves in here in Colorado. Our legislators are either out of touch and unintentionally destroying our state, or they're doing it on purpose. You know, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that good people need to stand up, need to start showing up, getting involved, and do not despair, do not give up, do not give in to all the bad thoughts that people can have about our state. The reality is we are going to turn things around, but start showing up at your city council meetings, know who your legislators are, start paying attention, start getting involved, folks. The 2026 election can be a game changer for Colorado. We can turn these policies around. We can make our state free. We can create a good community for our families. And that's the message I want to leave you with. So stay positive out there, folks. But be angry, be motivated, and we're going to do something about it. So thank you very much. Take care.